Hi everyone, my name's Christian. I'm a cocktail enthusiast, not a cocktail professional. And today I'm going to make for you 3 of my favorite whiskey cocktails. They're all easy to make, few ingredients, so let's get started. First off, probably the most famous, the Old Fashioned. And today I'll be making it with Larceny Barrel Proof. This comes in at 125.8 proof. So this is a hot one, but once you make it into the cocktail, pour it over the ice. It's going to dilute that alcohol level a little bit, and it's going to make it much more palatable than, don't get me wrong, drinking this straight is still delicious. But once you have it in Old Fashioned, it becomes much more approachable for maybe someone who's not as familiar with something that's this high proof. So let's get started here. I'm going to go in with a little bit of simple syrup. So today I'm using actually brown sugar simple syrup. Same thing as regular simple syrup, but we're using brown sugar, so it's got a little bit more depth, deeper flavor to it. Just 1/4 to 1/2 ounce of simple syrup, depending on how sweet you like it. Put that right in. And then, obviously, the main ingredient here is the bourbon. So I'm going to do about 2 ounces of bourbon. Right. And then I am using orange bitters, but you can mess around with whatever you have at hand, or there's so many bitter options out there that you could try. Black walnut bitters, which you'll see later, Angostura bitters, orange bitters. There's a world of bitters out there. I'm going to do about 3 dashes of orange bitters. Get some ice in this mixing stirring glass. I'm in New Jersey, and it's currently snow all over the ground outside, so I was debating making this with snow, but ice is a little more friendly. So you just give this a few stirs. 1, to make it cold, 2, to dilute it a little bit more, and blend, obviously mix the cocktail together, become one. All right. Once you give that a few good stirs, you go get your glass, which I have in the freezer, so I'll be right back. Old Fashioned's typically served in a double rocks glass, so it's got more space to sit on the ice cube. Got my beautiful clear ice cube sitting here. I could thank my dad for making these. I don't know how to make these cubes this clear. All right, so we've got our Old Fashioned stirred up here. It's really this simple. You really just pour the 2 ingredients in there, a little bit of bitters, and it's ready to go. So stir it up. Pour it over the ice. The nose on that bourbon is really nice. You could smell the higher proof, you could get that nose a lot stronger. Yeah, it smells delicious. And then just the final touch here, I've got a little garnish, orange peel. Just express it over the top. Give it a little wipe around the top of the rim. And then I like to just slide it right on the inside here. Cheers, there you go. There's our first whiskey cocktail, Old Fashioned. Yeah, you could drink this all day. Pass this to my live studio audience. All right, that's it, 1 down. Our next whiskey cocktail is going to be the Manhattan. So I'm going to be using a different whiskey. You could use this same whiskey for all of these cocktails if you wanted to. If you've got 1 bottle of whiskey at home, that works for all of these cocktails. It's really, you could choose what you're feeling like. So I'm going with a rye for my Manhattan. I think that's the traditional whiskey of choice for a Manhattan is a rye. A little more spicy than a bourbon, but there's no problem with using bourbon for a Manhattan. Maybe there is in the real cocktail world, but for me, there's no problem using bourbon in a Manhattan. So, same idea here. We're going to use our mixing glass. And I'm making these cocktails for us at home here, so I'm just going to use the same mixing glass I use for the Old Fashioned. Not much different going in here. Whiskey, bitters. We're going to add vermouth here for the Manhattan. But there's no simple syrup in Manhattan. The classic Manhattan ratio is 2 to 1. 2 parts whiskey, 1 part sweet vermouth. And you could play with all these ratios. I love to mix it up and do maybe a little bit of liquor, the vanilla one, liquor 43. Sometimes I put a little bit of liquor 43 in my Manhattan and it gets a little sweeter. You could do a black Manhattan, which is a different variation on a Manhattan. I'm just making our classic Manhattan today. 1 ounce of rye down. 2 ounces of rye. Now, I do know that you are supposed to put in the least expensive ingredients first, so that was probably a foul, but, you know, sometimes you just go with what you're doing here. All right, so we got 2 ounces of rye in. Now we've got 1 ounce of vermouth. And I'm going to do a mix of bitters. So I've got Angostura, which is really just herbaceous, I guess you could say, is the way I would describe it. And then black walnut. So I was going to give it a little bit of herb nose and flavor, and then the black walnut kind of rounds it out with a little, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it's kind of, let me give it a smell. Let's see. This is spicy. This is probably spicy too, but this leans more like a floral note, whereas this leans more of like a warmer spice note. So I'm going to do 2 black walnut. I'm going to do 2 Angostura. I'm going to add a little more ice. I'll grab my glass. Move this to the front here so you can see it all right. I'll be right back. All right, so we've got our chilled coupe glass here for Manhattan. You could serve a Manhattan up in like a martini glass, coupe glass, Nick and Nora glasses, which I'll be using for our next cocktail. You could even serve it on the rocks if you want to. You can do whatever you want. That's what's fun about a home bar. You experiment, try different things, see what you like. So for my Manhattan, I'm going to use a Luxardo cherry, which is traditional, I believe, and also delicious and one of my favorite things to eat. And it's the treasure at the bottom of the Manhattan. So I've got that down. I'm going to give this a good stir. Okay, got that nice and chilled down. Now this is served up, as you can see, so you don't have the benefit of having the ice on the cocktail to kind of keep it cold for you while you're drinking it. So you want to make sure you stir it enough that the cocktail is going to stay nice and cold for you. Perfect, you know, drop a little ice cube over the top. It's no problem. Just go in and fish it out before anyone sees it. Boom, like it didn't even happen. Here's our Manhattan. It's delicious. It's perfect for For me, it's perfect on a cold day. Manhattan, 1 or 2, 3 Manhattans. Cold day, nothing better. All right, that's it. That's 2 down. Pass that to the studio audience. And we're on to our third whiskey cocktail, which is going to be one of my favorites and a riff on my all-time favorite cocktail, the Negroni. This is, we are going to be making a Boulevardier. So this is equal parts cocktail, but I'm going to make it a little bit different. But traditionally, equal parts 1 ounce whiskey, 1 ounce Campari, or a bitter of some sort, 1 ounce sweet vermouth. I'm going to change the ratio up a little bit because I enjoy the taste of whiskey, so I'm going to up the whiskey a little bit and lower the other 2 a little bit, just so the ratios are where I like them. And again, I'm making this at our home bar, or our little safe space here. So I'm going to use the same mixing ice glass that I have. Again, the ingredients are not changing up that much. So for the whiskey, I'm going to be using the Four Roses Small Batch Select. This is a bourbon. So we've used high proof bourbon for our first, rye for our second, and then this is more of it's still a little bit of a high, it's 52%. So it's not, barrel proof by any means, but it's, it's not a low alcohol content. We have our Campari and we have our sweet vermouth. All right. So start with our sweet vermouth. 1 ounce of sweet vermouth. 1 ounce of Campari. I know I said I was going to change the ratios up. I'll probably do a little more than 1 ounce of bourbon, just so we can get the ratio a little bit more towards where I like it to be. I'm going to do 1.5 ounces of bourbon here. All right, so just like the other 3, we have them all in our mixing, all in our mixing glass. I'm gonna give them a good stir. Just gonna incorporate these ingredients together. I'm just gonna add another scoop of fresh ice on top of here. Again, like the Manhattan, when you're serving a cocktail up, you wanna make sure you've got enough ice when you're mixing it that it's gonna cool down and it's gonna keep the drink cold. I know there's professionals out there who can stir while keeping silent. I'm just starting to mix it together. Go grab my glass, it's in the freezer. All right, so for our final glass, we're using a Nick and Nora glass. This is served up again like the Manhattan was. Give it one last good stir. Try not to get any ice in it this time. All right, and I'm just going to get another dried orange. My fingers are frozen. See if this will float right on the top. Perfect. There you have it, the Boulevardier. Awesome. All right, so I'm just going to bring these all back here. Just a little replay of what we've done. So, Someone just farted. No, just kidding. So we've got 3 whiskey cocktails here, all with very similar ingredients. Not many here. They all, as you can see, look completely different. Taste different. But if you like whiskey, these are all great cocktails. Old Fashioned, Manhattan, Boulevardier. Cheers. Oh, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.